Today's podcast is brought to you by Kentucky Farm Bureau Insurance. When it comes to home and auto insurance, it's important to have the right coverage from a company and an agent you can trust. Someone who will help you properly protect the people and things you love most. So if the unexpected happens, you and your family can rest insured. To request a free quote, find your local KFB insurance agent at mykfbagent.com. Kentucky Farm Bureau, big on commitment.
How you doing, Renee?
I'm good. How are you, Matt?
I'm good. We have a great guest today. Learned a lot. The technology in agriculture is going on now, and the future is really mind-blowing. So really cool guest here today.
Yeah, you guys are really going to like Caleb. I've been blessed to know him for a very long time, but the little bit of knowledge I found out back in high school, he has quite surpassed. So you're going to learn a lot today.
I'd say so.
All right. So without further ado, I'm Renee Carrico.
And I'm Matt Hilton.
And this is Between the Rows. All right. Hey, everybody. How's it going?
It's going great.
It's going good. How are you? Thank you for coming to the Kentucky Farm Bureau office here.
Yeah, it's great to be here, guys.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah, I know the listeners are going to start getting used to this, but I'm kind of snagging my friends from across the state to come talk to us.
Yeah. You seem to know all these people pretty well, which is good. You're good. We're showing off some of your buds, and they do a lot of really neat things for farmers and agriculture.
She's got a great network, doesn't she?
Looks like it.
Well, thank you for being here, Caleb. Caleb Brown's with us from Caldwell County originally. And so why don't you give the listeners a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm from Caldwell County. We farm. I farm with my dad, 8th generation farmer. Recently just got our 9th generation in there, and we farm white corn, we farm soybeans, wheat, we've got some dark fire tobacco, burley tobacco, air cured, and we also raise beef cattle, and we do commercial hay production.
Nice.
So you're bored. You have nothing to do.
And I got a full-time job. So
how many generations have y'all been farming?
So I'm pretty sure I'm the 8th. We've dug back a long way. Actually, it's a big part of naming our child was going on, Ancestry.com and looking as far back as we could go. I can't remember how far we got back, but I know for sure like the 6th generation on our farm, if not the 7th.
Wow.
Yeah. So we've got a cemetery on a farm. There's people that moved here from Virginia. Some of my ancestors, they're buried in 1877. That kind of thing. It's pretty neat to have that heritage right there on the farm. So.
That's incredible. Well, our administrative assistant, who you guys have heard me talk about before, Margaret Gambert, when you get married, it hides your maiden name. But she is originally a Brown from Caldwell County, and it is Caleb's sister. So she likes to argue that your son is the cutest baby out there. So we get to see a lot of pictures.
She says that a lot. Yeah, that's right. And he's only cute because of his mama. That's the only reason he's cute. He definitely didn't get his good looks from me. Yeah.
So tell us, what do you do today? You're obviously farm, but also what else do you do?
Yeah, so farming's my second full-time job, I guess you could say. If you talk to the guy that runs the place, he'd say I'm not there full-time. I can promise you that. But so on the day-to-day for me, I work for Hutson. Okay. We're a John Deere dealership. We've got 28 locations right now. Always looking, I think they're looking for some more as it goes across, mainly in Kentucky, and we started in Mayfield. We've got several locations in Indiana. We've got one in Tennessee, and we've got several in the state of Michigan. So they've kind of moved up there. I sell large ag equipment and support it and take care of, the day-to-day for most of these farmers. We've got a lot of technology involved. We do a lot of, solution solving, and that's kind of what I like to say that we do. Somebody comes with a problem to me, something's not working right on the farm, or maybe we're not efficient enough, or we want to save some resources. We want to do something a little better, and they come to me and we kind of, brainstorm how to do that and implement some change. So
cool.
So what's your area? That's a lot of states that Hutson covers. What area do you cover?
Yeah, so I work out of Hopkinsville. The majority of my clientele would be, from Logan, Todd, I have a couple in Simpson, a lot in Christian County, Trigg, and several in Caldwell County also. But, it stretches just, I go into West Tennessee a little bit, Southern Tennessee. I've seen some customers on my trip up here. I've been to Elizabethtown to see some people, Shelbyville, just some like people that I've met along the way that have become, partners with us in this whole thing. So Excellent. It's been great to see some people this week.
Yeah. So where'd you learn all this stuff? Where'd you go to school here?
I went to school at Western.
There you go.
There we go. I knew he was going to throw that in there. Go Tops.
You knew he was going to do it.
Yeah. Purpose.
Yeah, I think if I was going to do it all over again, I probably would have gone to Murray. Just to be honest, I have to say that. I didn't go to school for ag to start with, and I got a great ag education at Western. That's for sure. But being tied in my end of the state, I think Murray's got a great program. My wife went to Murray. She might have paid me to say that. I don't know. But she's a Tennessee girl, so she's a Tennessee Farm Bureau girl.
Yeah, tell us a little bit. I know I do this to Margaret too all the time, but tell us a little bit about her family because they've got a Farm Bureau connection too that is so funny. I feel like you guys are so known in Western Kentucky because your family's been there so long, and especially with your job now. But her family's pretty dang well known too, very involved.
Yeah, so I met my wife through her dad. He was actually a customer of mine. He walked in to buy some precision ag. He called me, and man, it was a hard sale. And actually, what I had to do, what got me my first sale with Charlie Hancock, that's my father-in-law. What got me my first sale with him was I actually had to sell a little bit of myself. We sell a support package, and anyway, he would love to hear me tell this story. But I made him pay me for me to come and help him. That's basically how it worked. It's kind of how we did stuff. And he'll tell everybody that, and he'll say, I think he'll take credit for getting us hooked up. But yeah, he's been, on the president's board, I think is what they call that at Tennessee Farm Bureau. My sister-in-law, she had a job with the Tennessee Farm Bureau. They've been involved with Farm Bureau 100 times more than my family has been. We're not very involved at all. We have insurance there, but that's about it. But my wife is the Farm Bureau person. She wants to go to meetings. She's recently become a stay-at-home mom, and that is one of the first things she wants to start doing to get a little more involved in the community is to go attend some meetings and just see how they can get involved with all the time she has with, keeping up with me and a 7-month-old, so who's currently teething.
Oh, boy. So you were happy to have a hotel last night. I
was, yeah. And they were at the camper. They went camping, so I would have had the house to myself anyway, but yeah.
Yeah, talk about, so you said something about just helping farmers be more efficient, and that's mostly what technology does through the years. It's really just to help life be a little easier. How do you do that? What do you see when they come in? What are you listening for? Talk about that process with them.
Well, and I work for a John Deere dealer, and everyone wants to make it about John Deere technology and everything like that too. But man, efficiency is just the thing that I've picked up on over the past 10 years working in this industry. One of my favorite things about my old job, which was not selling equipment, it was selling the technology and supporting that, was just getting to build that network of people. You get to see everyone who farms. In my instance, you get to see everyone who farms with John Deere equipment, basically, is how it would go. And, you'd go to people's farms and you'd see, you see how quickly people get done with their harvest, with their planting, all that kind of thing. You see how people's grain systems are put together, how their trucks operate, how their equipment flows in the field. It just has really made me realize over the past 10 years how important efficiency is to an ag operation, to a farm. Mm-hmm. And that's something that, we've really been striving to improve on our farm. Can we do it with one less truck driver? Can we do it with, can we change the size of our planter and get done a week earlier and still have the same amount of operators? Just reducing the amount of time it takes to do a task, because it seems like with weather conditions and everything, and the labor shortages we're in, how can we improve on that? Mm-hmm. We always seem to have a shorter window to get something done too. Weather's really, really interesting. It's really been kind of hurting us. Mm-hmm. It's always too wet to do something, and it's always optimal when it's not wet.
And when you have as diverse amount of crops mix as you guys have, you and your dad have, there's never a time you're not really in the field. I mean, between wheat harvests and still having tobacco, I mean, literally every other time that your average row crop guy is out of the field anymore, you guys are still in it. Mm-hmm. So I tell people all the time, if you think the weather is good for you and the stage you're in, just talk to a guy that does a different crop, and chances are he's being rained out of something or too dry to do something.
Right.
Not even a guy with a different crop, just a guy on the other side of the county.
No kidding.
I mean, hey, some of my best friends that farm, they live in Fredonia. So mm-hmm. Renee knows where Fredonia is. I live in Lamasco. So mm-hmm. these two towns that most people that are going to listen to this have no idea where they are. Copper Top Barbecues in Fredonia, it's worth going. Okay. But anyway, they'll get an inch of rain overnight, and I'll get nothing, and it's just kind of crazy. And my dad, he's always encouraged us to spread out, not have all of our eggs in one basket. So, we'll farm some farms down on that end of the county, or, even another county that's not, obviously within reach of where we are. We don't want to go too far. But, a lot of that and that's had a lot of results for us because of the weather patterns. You know, we may have a bumper crop at home and not a great crop elsewhere, but sometimes we don't have a great crop where we are around our home base. And if we had just kind of stuck to that, 3, 4, 5 mile radius and hadn't jumped out there, we would have had a pretty big loss. But, you have a pocket somewhere else, and you have a good weather pattern there, and it kind of helps make up for it.
Yep.
So when we talk technology, it's so funny to think back. I don't consider us very old. I hit the big 3-0 this year, but I don't think that's, people like Matt Hilton make fun of me as soon as I say that. But
I'm very old, is what she's implying.
that's
there.
exactly what
You mean you're not 30 yet?
I did. I just hit it.
You just turned 30.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
that's right.
but what I'm saying is, when we were in high school, I distinctly remember riding in the planer with you at some point and being amazed that you didn't have to touch the steering wheel till you got to the end of a row, and then you turned it around. And I was like, man, nobody in this county, like, who has
That's
this?
fancy, right
Yeah.
there.
Wow. And so, I guess my question to you is, from back then to now, what do you see as an adoption of technology? Like, what's now the norm from what we used to see? Because I was just a livestock kid that got to ride with one of my FFA buddies in a planter. So there was a part of it that was just my experience and I didn't know. But then there's a part of it that, like, you guys were trying new things. So where do you see when it comes to adoption kind of across the state with the technology you're working with?
Technology 10 years ago. Well, it's more than 10 years ago. It'd be 15 years ago.
Oh, gosh, we are old.
I know. We're old. But yeah. So, 15 years ago, auto steer was a big deal. And that's what you're talking about, right? So you get in the tractor, you set a straight line, and you push a button and the tractor drives. You get to the end, you pick everything up, you turn it around, you're watching. It just gives you, it's an efficiency thing, right? And it has to do with, the condition of your workers at the end of the day. They're not tired from holding a steering wheel all day. They've had a chance to look and see how the equipment's operating, be a little more cognizant of what's going on around them. That's a big deal. That was just coming in. And so, 10 years ago when I first started my job, I would do a lot of training on that. I would get people set up to do that kind of thing. And today, man, it's tough to find somebody that I'm working with on a regular basis that does not use that. It's just, I wouldn't call it 100%, but, I'd say it's 80 to 85% of the people that are out there that are, row crop farming, they're using that technology. And a lot of them are, and that's the most simple thing that we offer now. It's just incredible how far things have gotten from that point. You got variable rate seeding, and even that's something we were doing 10 years ago. I can remember with my dad learning how to write those prescriptions that we call it, and you got a 100-acre field. Well, in the past, you would just take a planter and it would just plant, 28,000 seeds across all 100 acres. Well, now I might plant, of course, populations have increased too. We're increasing populations to increase yield. So now I may have an average of 30,000 or 32,000. And the thing is that, like, part of the field will get planted at 26 and part of it will get planted at 36, but you still have that average in the end of 30. And, you're just putting those resources back where they, where they need to go instead of just doing it across the whole thing. We do variable rate fertilizer, we do variable rate seeding, we do variable rate nitrogen application. All of that is created from the last pass of the year, which is harvest. We're recording everything. Every time a piece of machinery goes across that acre, it's data points. It's what we're collecting now. We're collecting the yield, right? We're collecting the actual crop. We're going to go sell that. And none of the technology really, all the technology I have in that combine, it doesn't change what's coming out of that field. But it helps to make a decision for next year of what comes out of that field.
That's really cool. How, for a city boy over here, how does that matter to, like, a regular city person? What is that really, when it comes down to prices in the grocery store or just safety of food? How does some of these technologies do you see is helping those things? Someone, regular Joe going to the grocery store would care to know.
So let's talk about section control. That's a big thing that's going to relate back to what you're talking about. And with that, what that does is it shuts off the rows, it shuts off the nozzles that are spraying the chemicals and that kind of thing too, right? So we have this overlap in fields, especially farm fields that aren't square. So a sprayer sprays out there 100 feet, and if it goes over 100 feet before it can shut off, it's got an overlap of 10 to 20%. So number one, that's a big increase in cost for the farmer, right? So it means he's got to get more out of his crop. It also means that there's going to be crop damage too, right? In a lot of instances, you're going to burn it. And so if we can reel that back in and we can have that thing cut off every time when it gets somewhere it's already sprayed, it just shuts itself off. Well, we're saving a lot of of a lot of chemicals there. We're being a better environmental steward, right? And we're also saving money, which in turn makes us produce the crop more efficiently, which makes us be able to do that. So.
Right.
Yeah, we've had to change that narrative a little bit. I think, especially on the livestock side, we always were like, we care about our animals make us money. We care about our crops make us money. It's the livelihood, it's this, that, and otherwise. And I think it's, there's a piece of it that we've been trying to say more now is we're being more efficient, but we're being more efficient for you and us, consumer. The less we overlap on the spray, exactly what you just said, less cost, but also less residue on that crop. Even if we know the science says it's going to grow right out of that, we know from a consumer side, you feel more comfortable knowing that we're using the technology to make sure that doesn't happen, and we don't even have to worry about that.
Yeah, I mean, we want to make money. If you talk to a farmer, they say they're not in it to make money. They're in it to make money. You have to be able to turn a profit to do what you're doing, right? But we're also in it because, we want to be good stewards, right? We want to take care of the land. We want to do that kind of thing. And that kind of dives into this piece of technology that uses AI. It's called See and Spray. You ever heard of that, Matt? You've never heard of See and Spray? You have, haven't you? Yeah, I knew Renee had heard of that. She is a livestock person. She keeps up with little row crop stuff.
I dip my toe in the row crop water.
So See and Spray, I've got a sprayer. It's 120 feet wide, right? It's got 36 cameras on it. It's actively looking at the crop, and it's looking for weeds that are smaller than your pinky fingernail, And it could see those, and it can anticipate those coming. And talk about saving chemical, right? You go out there, you spray this whole field, you might have a chemical cost of $15 an acre, $20 an acre. Well, what if only 20% of that field has weeds in it that need to be sprayed?
Yeah.
So, it's using AI, it's processing, thousands of images every second across that whole thing. It's incredible the way that works. And it truly does work. I mean, I've seen it work.
And just pinpoint.
It pinpoints them, and it can anticipate them coming, and it just turns those nozzles on for, a quarter of a second. If it doesn't see anything else coming, it sprays them. It's incredible how that works.
Wow, that's great. Yeah,
there's a lot of that kind of technology coming down the pipeline. I mean, autonomy is going to be a big thing in the Midwest, especially in the Plains area. We got these big fields. Canada's going to be just a prime place to have autonomy. Fields that are 2, 3, 4 miles long. Thousands of acres. They're going to really benefit from that. It's going to be a little tougher around home. We got lots of sinkholes and trees and ditches and things like that, but I think eventually we will be there. I have a couple of producers that are ready to get it, ready to try it as soon as it becomes approved for them, and they see it, it really making a big difference. Labor shortages will be a big thing. That right. Autonomy is going to be a big thing for that.
So where do you? I mean, I'm sure Hutson and you get to go to a lot of places through your job. But when it comes to learning the new technology, seeing it in action, where does that happen? Are you going to the farm machinery show? Or where are we going to see these things? Or is this like internal things with John Deere where you're getting to see some of this stuff in action? Yeah,
a lot of it's internal, but a lot of it just comes from experience. I mean, you have cutting edge farmers that want to try things. They get them, and then we support them. We all learn as we go. And a lot of the people that I work with, on a daily basis, they're okay with that. They're okay with getting something and learning about it. It's a process. So, and I went to the Commodity Classic for the first time this year.
Very cool.
That was great. I got to take one of my good friends down there. We both went, and we went for a day. We literally flew. I think it was in Dallas, wasn't it?
Sounds right.
Yeah. So we flew to Dallas the morning, and we flew back that night, and we fit it all into one day. We had a great time. Got to see a lot of cool stuff. It was really neat to be able to see how everything's coming out down there. And drones are a big thing. If you go to the Commodity Classic, that's the one thing you're going to take away from it. It's drones. It's a big thing. So, I mean, there's probably a dozen people there exhibiting how that's going to work. So
tell me, I got a drone.
I'm not sold yet. I'm not sold yet.
Sold
coverage is a big deal. Drones are there for fungicide spraying mainly. So, we want to prevent the plant from getting a disease. They also put an insecticide out to kill any, bugs that are really hurting the plant, that kind of thing. I'm not sold yet. They got to have good coverage. I mean, we spray fungicide at home. We hire a helicopter to come do it, and that's a little more coverage, I think, than what a typical drone can do. You're only holding 10 gallons on one, but I think that the technology will get there. I really do. It's an incredible thing that they can make that do what it can do. They're spraying about a half a gallon to a gallon an acre, so it's kind of slow to get over it. It goes back to the efficiency thing.
Yeah, I mean.
But I think eventually you're going to see that where there's zero entry in the field when it's happening. It's going to be a little bit more safe for the operator, that kind of thing. You just have to kind of get the bugs out of it. I had somebody come and do some drone spraying for me last year, about 80 acres, and I think it was her first time ever out doing it. It took her about a week to get that done. And then this year, I'm hearing guys are doing 160 acres a day with drones. So, it's coming along.
So help the non-ag people. Why are you not just, they're riding behind a spray rig down the road? Why can't we throw a spray rig out there to put a fungicide out? Explain that part to them.
So it takes a very special spray rig to drive over standing corn. They have to be tall. If you have a standard, regular old sprayer and you drive it through a cornfield, you're going to knock that corn over.
Right.
It's going to happen. There's different seed companies that are coming out with short corn. And that's I don't know. I'm not convinced on that one yet either, but we grow corn that grows really tall. The specific varieties we grow, they just happen to be really tall. And they make some sprayers that are high clearance, and they're a lot more expensive to own. And, they're just harder to get a hold of those. And you have a lot of crop damage, And then again, you're driving where you're sitting 10 feet off the ground, and the corn might be 12 feet or 10 feet, and it's right at eye level or higher. And you can't see the obstacles in your field. Number one, you're running over some corn, which, a good operator can do a good job, especially in good fields. But where we're at, man, it'd just be difficult with how many nooks and crannies we have to get those things into, and ditches and sinkholes, and that kind of thing from the karst topography and all that. So it's a little difficult to make that work. And so we use helicopters and airplanes typically is how we would do that. But it is becoming more important to have, like I talked about coverage earlier. Coverage would be more gallons per acre, which is not more gallons per acre of chemical. The chemical is the exact same amount as what we're spraying through a helicopter or even a drone. It's just more water. Water helps it penetrate through the leaves and get down on more of the plant. So the more water there is, it's more diluted, and it gets down there, and it can just push through the canopy and get down in the plant.
Very cool.
And that's where the ground rig comes in, like what Renee is talking about. I was driving down the road behind a sprayer. That is why those are very popular.
So I'm changing gears, and I don't even know if we warned you we were going to go here, but I'm just thinking about it. You guys have had H2A labor for a long time, and you still grow tobacco. And, we got to interact with your H2A labor for years when you guys still had a lot of hogs and things like that. When you say technology and different types of labor, where's the gap there when it comes to whether it's H2A, whether it's a local kid? I know you guys hire some high school, young college students. How hard is it to integrate them into technology, or how easy is it with different generations? Like, what are you seeing as you're traveling the state?
Well, doesn't matter where the H2A worker comes from. They're just like us. There's going to be some that are great at it, and some of them that aren't going to be great at it. I deal with those people every day in my job. There's plenty of American people that live here every day. Some of them just don't get it. Some of them just really do get it. And I work with a lot of farmers. A couple, and specifically, have some fantastic H2A guys. We've got one we call the professor. That's him. That's him. He would come over. So we would teach a class. We would go out to the farm, and we would teach a class to his employees. And this other guy would be there as a translator. And the people that were teaching the class, he knew more about it than they did. And that's he's the
Incredible.
professor. Yeah, he's great. Yeah. But they can. They do it very well. It has to do a lot with age. The younger generation can operate a phone. If you can operate a phone, you can operate a tractor. It's not much different. Wow. The tasks you're doing are different. You're not scrolling Facebook. You're trying to plot out where you're going. Mm-hmm. But the button pushes. It's very intuitive. It's not super difficult.
Right. Very cool.
Everything's connected too. I've got my phone here. I can look at every piece of equipment on our farm, just about, and I can see what it's doing, where it's at, what's wrong with it, who's in it. I can literally zoom in, and I can just pull up their screen, and I can see what they're doing. I can call them on the phone, walk them through what's going on with it. When it's in Spanish, it's a little more difficult for me.
All right. What is the top secret, cool technology coming out soon? Is there anything out there you're not allowed to talk about, but you can do it here on Between the Rows?
No, I can't talk
We won't
about
tell anybody.
I can't talk about it. No, honestly, the things that are coming down the pipeline, obviously, See & Spray's out there. That's a big thing. Mm-hmm. We've got autonomy coming eventually, and that's going to be driverless pieces of equipment. Something that we're going to see next year on combines in particular is called predictive ground speed automation. So you still have an operator in the cab, but we take a NDVI image of the field, and so we're seeing where the good places are in the field, where the bad places are in the field, based off of basically I'd call it a heat map, right? So it's satellite imagery, and it's figuring out where all that is. That's preloaded in the machine, and the machine goes out there, and it can kind of adjust to where and how fast it needs to run based on where the good places are in the field. And it ties those in with 2 cameras on the front of the machine that are actually visibly looking at it. AI is processing those images, seeing where the crop is down, seeing where it's more lush, that kind of thing. And it's just automatically adjusting that machine on how fast it's going and adjusting that so the throughput stays the same. And then you got cameras in there too that are they're looking at the quality of the crop. So maybe the combine needs to be adjusted. There's so many adjustments on a combine. Matt, he's isn't it?
No, he's there.
He's got it.
I'm in. I'm good.
Hey, he's
good.
kind of a tech guy, so
Yeah.
there's a chance that he might be keeping up now more than I am.
He might be. That's right. Yeah.
I kind of get what's going on.
So you got all these adjustments, right? And so these cameras are sitting there looking at the grain that's constantly going through this machine, and they're analyzing it, and it can tell. It color codes it for us to see it. It'll show you, oh well, this wheat grain is still in the husk. Oh, we need to adjust the chaffer, or we need to adjust the concave clearance to make it a little more aggressive to make sure it's getting threshed, or there's too much foreign material in it. Okay, we'll speed the fan up. We'll spit that out the back a little bit. We're not going to make a huge adjustment, but it's doing all of that on its own.
Mm-hmm. Very cool.
Yeah, it's incredible the way that all of that's working. Yeah,
very cool. So.
All right, I'm the number one on asking questions you don't want to be asked, but I'm not going to ask you to price any of this specifically. But for people that don't understand, we're going to go into this fall. I guess this is going to come out in August. So in September is Farm Safety Month. And so we're going to be talking about watch the roads, watch where you're going, respect the farmers and the equipment coming by. You don't have to say an exact price, but just a range. You guys farm yourselves, a combine, a spray rig, just the tractor pulling them. What kind of ranges of an investment are these farmers making when it comes to, and it doesn't have to be the brand new technology, but just now the normal, what I thought, you probably knew it was regular. What I thought was cool in high school when I was riding with you, that baseline, being able to plant, being able to harvest. What kind of ranges of price are these guys driving down the road that we're asking you to respect them while they're out there?
Yeah, so new combine rolling off the line, today would be anywhere from $550,000 to almost $1 million for one combine. It's an incredible investment that these people are making into the equipment. We can get into whether or not it's overpriced off the microphone. We might have to edit that part out of this. But it's an incredible amount. You got to have it to get the crop in. Now, do you have to have something new? Not necessarily. We sell a lot of used equipment. We buy used equipment on our farm. It's perfect. It's perfectly okay to do that. We use it. It works just as well. You just got to keep up with it. And on that end, you can get combines under $100,000 up to, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 even there to buy some late model stuff. Tractors, I priced my first tractor this week that was over $1 million. Just blew my mind when we found out about that. Yeah. And, most of those are in the 100 to 300 range, I would say, for what you're seeing on the road. Yeah. But, a typical farmer, you go to a farmer that farms 3,000 acres, he could have anywhere from, $750,000 to $4 million in equipment sitting there. Just depends on what he wants to have invested in his equipment. Yeah. Because you can definitely get it done you don't have to have new stuff to get it done.
I just think that brings perspective. I think we always are like, be careful. That could be your dad. That could be your brother. And I want that human aspect, of course, but sometimes we steer away from the business because we felt like people went factory farm on us, and that's what the consumer thought. But sometimes we need to remember business. Like, yes, that is a family farmer, but yes, that's an incredible investment. You knocking it on his way between two farms has delayed his harvest for how long? Depending on what parts you hit, what you think could have been much less just the loss of life or injury. That's that person's livelihood. So sometimes I think it's helpful to understand, yes, you're delaying harvest, but also the amount of investment that's driving down the road. They're flagging for a reason. They want you to know they're moving, and they want to make sure they get it to the next point. So I just think it's helpful for people to get a price tag in their head of what's moving.
Yeah, and once you get past the physical injury of an accident and that kind of thing, the farmer is going to be more upset about the loss of the time than he is the damage done to the piece of machinery.
Yeah, and just respect someone that's putting that much into growing your food and doing something most of us don't want to do on a daily basis.
For sure.
And they're out there doing that and putting a lot of skin in the game to pull that off. And I think as cool as all this technology is to keep up, sometimes you got to keep making those investments that are probably a little scary. So I'm sure a lot of farmers they definitely don't want you running them over, running them off the road on the way. So
yeah.
So question: tell the listeners, when did you truly start It doesn't even have to. I mean, you grew up on a farm, so you've been physically, manually working on a farm probably before any of us wanted to when we were kids. But when did you start investing in the farm, truly having a piece of the farm? It's a lot younger than a lot of people our age were able to do, and I think that shows a lot to your work ethic. But kind of give a background on that piece.
So I probably had my first crop, in 2010, which would have been the year before I graduated high school. My dad, my grandparents actually had bought 18 acres. And my dad was going to rent that from them and farm that. And he's just kind of said, well, why don't you help make the decisions on this? Why don't you, take the reins on that 18 acres and you can farm it? You help me on the farm. I'm not going to pay you to work on the farm anymore. So you're going to work for me when you can, but you can have the crop off that farm. And, that was kind of when it was sweat equity at that point. I bought my first farm when I was a sophomore in college. With his help, he helped me find it, line it up, and help me negotiate to get that done. And, from there, I started investing more. Technology was probably the first place that I invested outside of land. I'd buy some things, I'd go ask the question, and he would say, no, we don't need that, and I would say, well, I kind of want that, so I'm going to figure out a way to pay for it. Mm-hmm. And so I'd just go get it, and then, we'd put it on, and he'd say, man, how'd we do it without that, kind of thing. And so, yeah. Figure out a way to pay for it. But now, we're kind of going in partners on some things. We've done a pretty large expansion on our grain facilities. We're both in on that. I've bought a little land here and there, and my job's helped me been able to do that. I'm very thankful for that. So,
thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So when it comes to this fall, when you're selling equipment in a market, I mean, we finally went over $4 corn. That's going to date us. Every grain farmer is going to know exactly when we recorded this. If I say this week, we finally got back to $4 corn. But what are you hearing out in the field? I mean, what are you guys do have rain on your end of the state. My end of the state's dry. So I've got corn a little more twisted in central and kind of North Kentucky. You guys probably have a little bit better of a crop, but price is still a challenge. What are you hearing from the farmers when it comes to just going into this harvest season?
The sentiment is poor.
Yeah.
Yeah. People are very nervous, I think, about how things are going to work out. I was talking to one of my friends this week, and he said, every bushel of corn that I have in the bin right now, I'm selling at a loss. I'm not making money on it. And that hits home, especially when you're borrowing money for a crop, for a future crop, and you haven't sold the first crop yet, and you're already losing money on that. Something that my dad we talked about pretty heavily back before this growing season started. We raise non-GMO white corn, and typically across the world, it's known as it has a yield drag, and so we're not producing as many bushels. And something that he mentioned to me that really hit home was that when the markets are low, a premium is worth even more. So if you can differentiate yourself from other growers and grow something that's more of a specialty crop that's not quite a specialty crop, then you're going to be able to set yourself apart. You're going to have a commodity that not everyone else has. And, we don't just grow number 2 yellow corn. We've got a commodity that other people are needing and wanting. And it's always up in the air on whether that really pays for itself or not. But at least we have something different. When corn's $4, if you can get $1 for your white corn more, it's 20% more than what everyone else is getting. So you need to yield 20% more too. And you have expenses that go along with that. But we've talked about that, and he's got me convinced. I wanted to grow yellow corn so bad. We never averaged 200 bushel corn. Never done it because we grow white corn. Now all my neighbors, oh yeah, we're making 200, 210, and I'm like, gosh, I know if we raise yellow corn, we can make 210, 215, 220, whatever it is. I can beat my neighbors maybe, but. We don't have big numbers, and everyone in agriculture is obsessed with, oh yeah, my corn's so good, it's 250 bushel corn. I don't get to go around and say that,
You got something different though.
Yeah, that's right. It's different. So, this year we're raising non-GMO white corn and GMO white corn, and we're raising GMO soybeans and non-GMO soybeans. So, you guys might understand that somebody who's spraying that, he's going to pull his hair out. And Ramsey works for us. He's a great member of our team. And if he's getting frustrated spraying, I can understand why, because he's changing tank mixes all the time, different chemicals and all that kind of stuff. Keeping it straight's it's a great project for him. And he's doing a great job so far. I hadn't had any mess ups. Yeah. So, and we're almost done. We're almost done spraying. That'd be great when we're finished and we haven't messed it up. So. But we're always trying. We always like to try new practices. We're trying to do new things. This is our second year to try strip till. And, you guys, I'm sure, are familiar with no-till farming. Something that's been going through my head is that no-till is a great thing for the environment, but is it a great thing for the sustainability of your business? We have some things that even with no-till, you have washing. You've got ditches that can form. The top layer of your soil is what has your nutrients in it. And the big thing that we've been noticing with no-till farming is as that top layer gets hard, we have a lot more runoff, and we're not bringing that water into our soils, at least where we are. Soils are different everywhere, but what we've been noticing is we have a lot more runoff in a heavy rain event. And what rain event have we had lately that's not a heavy rain event that comes fast, used to? I can remember, I feel like I can, 15 years ago, we'd have rain that would just kind of rain all day. You might get an inch of rain, it'd rain all day, but now you get an inch of rain in an hour. In an hour. And so, infiltration of water to me is a big thing where we are, because we're 3 days away from a drought at any point of time. You're seeing that in Central Kentucky. I've seen that in Central Kentucky the past couple of days. I really didn't realize it was so dry here. There's a lot of different ways you can combat that infiltration. Cover crops. You can do the no-till thing. You can work your ground. You can work all that. There's a fine line between working your ground for water infiltration, though, because it runs off. And so what we've started to do, we're trying strip till. There's been a lot of success with that in Christian County. I've got 2 great mentors down there that have shown me a lot. Michael Lester and Joseph Sisk. I've learned a lot about strip tilling from those 2. And I bought a bar right before Christmas last year, and I decided we were going to do that. I got to use my other one. Barry Alexander works for Cundiff Farms. He runs that place down there. He let me use his strip till bar last year, and it was just a phenomenal stand of corn. And I saw a yield increase. I can't say that I saw enough of a yield increase to say, yeah, we're going to do this, but I saw enough of a yield increase to say, yeah, we're going to invest some money in this and keep trying it. And so strip till, for those of you guys who don't understand that is where we're going to take a piece of equipment, and instead of wholesale disking up, turning the soil over in the whole field, we're going to till up the rows by themselves so that they have a chance to warm up and be ready to plant. I've been able to plant earlier in better conditions. And we've got a great corn crop behind that strip till bar. It's just been a pretty impressive thing to see that work for us. So no-till corn has a tendency to have uneven emergence, especially where we have wheat. We have so much residue on top of the ground, the soil stays wet and cold, and corn doesn't like wet and cold. It likes to have a little heat, a little bit of dry. It comes right up, and we've seen some really big improvements visually. Stand counts have been high, a lot higher behind the strip till bar than no-till. So we're going to kind of do another study this fall and see how it works. If you don't try something new, how are you ever going to know if it works?
So I know I keep asking questions that are completely not on this list, but I keep thinking of different things. When you grow up and you're still getting to farm with your dad, and your dad is open to trying new things as the years go on, and you guys have been able to partner so well, and I think that speaks tons for your family and how you guys have done that, and I've known you guys for years, but I think people forget that even though you're still farming with your family, you still can have mentors and friends that are helping you in that community. So kind of explain how that fits in, because you and your dad are partners and you're talking every day and you're working together, but there's still opportunity for probably both of you to have some friendships and mentorships across counties that are helping with some of this inventive, different new pieces you're doing.
Yeah. So the most beneficial thing to me, as far as broadening my network of mentors or of friends, of people that care about the agriculture, that's been my job. I've gotten to see all of these different growers, gotten to see all these different operations. If I'm thinking about doing something, I've got 10 people I can call and say, hey, what do you think about this? You've tried this. What have your results been? And people are so open to share. They're not going to tell you. I'm not going to go up to somebody and ask them, hey, what did that field of corn make there? But you can ask them. You can ask. That's not a question I would ask anybody, but I would ask, how did that practice improve your overall yield? Did it improve your yield? But did it improve your profitability? Did it improve your yield? But did it cost you money? That's a big thing too that you gotta watch. But and that was all through my job. Got a lot of great producers there. But something else that's really helped me is CALP. Kentucky Ag Leadership Program was a big part for me. We've got a great network of people that not just in our class that, but even outside of our class, there's people that are just, I call and get advice from, and they call me to get advice, whatever it is, but I got some lifelong friends out of that one right there. That was a great program to go through.
Yeah, I just think I always like to ask because I feel like it's always one of our first gen farmer things. We're like, oh, but who got you in and who mentors you and who do you look up to? But those of us that grew up in the ag industry, we still have mentors and friends. And I think that's the cool part where you hit the age where you're like, oh, I don't have to call you my mentor. We're like, they want you to understand that you're peers. Yeah. And that's this moment in your, like, I don't know, it's the most, I don't know, awesome thing you have a feeling of when you feel like you're a young farmer and all of a sudden that farmer who's been your mentor is like, no, you're a peer. Like,
you're one of us.
It's an incredible moment.
One of my favorite stories is when I was interviewing for CALP. Got back from my honeymoon, Hillary and I went to interview in Lexington for CALP. And we went through our interview and we're outside. We're talking to Dr. Isaacs. And, Hillary actually had interviewed for CALP a couple of years before I had. And, so she knew Dr. Isaacs. She knew Dr. Snell. We were talking. And we're just standing there. We're just kind of discussing how things went and how life is. And out of the bathroom walks one of my friends who, I really didn't know that great at the time, but I'd still call him a friend, Brandon Roby. You guys probably don't know. You know Brandon?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So Brandon walks out of the bathroom, and I am just flabbergasted that Brandon is there. I was like, what are you doing here? And he looks at me. He's like, what are you doing here? And, we both were just like, we can't believe, and I called him. I was like, so how'd your interview go? And I said, I can't believe that you're interviewing for this. Like, I thought, my thought was like, Brandon is this awesome guy. He knows so much about agriculture. Like CALP is beneath him. And then he turned around and told me the same thing about me. He might have just been trying to build me up a little bit. But, we just kind of had that moment where that was the peer moment.
Yeah.
It was like, I didn't realize that he thought about me like that. And, he probably didn't realize that I thought about him like that. It's just like I looked up to Brandon. He does a great job. He's got a great story. Just the way he's been able to grow his farm and the things that he's doing are awesome. And, we probably talk more than about anybody. We'll bounce ideas off each other. We're going to go look at shops here next week. We both want to build a shop really bad, and he's going to do it, and I'm not. But we're both going to go look. That's what we're going to go do. So
very cool, very cool.
Yeah.
So tell us, where can farmers find some of this information about technologies and things coming up? Where do you look for that? Where are some things that some places they can get resources to learn more?
Man, I tell you, one of the biggest things. And I'm going to kind of contradict myself here, but because I got off my social media a week ago. I don't have Facebook. I got off my Instagram. I just kept Twitter. It's all I got. So, but Facebook is a great place. Man, there are some fantastic Facebook groups out there. Lots of discussion going on, precision ag related, agronomy related, haymaking related, spraying, anything you want to talk about, there's a community there. But I'll tell you where I have looked for 10, 15 years is I have read a forum online called Ag Talk. And it's just a very, very simple, basic platform. I read it every day. There's so much insight there. There's a lot of stuff you got to kind of search through, and find the meaningful content too. But boy, there are some fantastic farmers there. It's a great place to read. They talk about markets, talk about machinery, they talk about precision ag. They've got a drones forum. It's a great resource for me too. I use it a lot. So.
Well, we always give every guest a chance to give a plug, whether that's for their local business. So I know your mom has a cool flower shop, and so we
haven't even talked about flowers. Oh my gosh, I left her out. Oh yeah.
So
we can. Chance. You can do the
yeah, we can
around.
link that. We can link your contact info. Maybe it's your email. If people are like, man, I love the stuff he's talking about, I'd love to get a hold of him because I've got some John Deere equipment that I'd love to add some to. So give us a chance to know what your email is so we can put it in the show notes. And I've been tossed a card, so I'll just put it in there for everybody.
Put it in my pocket just for that reason.
So we'll have your email in the show notes. But give your mom a plug. I know Margaret would be proud upstairs that we finally got this in.
That's right. So my mom, she's got a great business, Meadowview Flowers. So, the true name of the business is Meadowview Farms and Flowers. She's the only one with a social media presence. So, go follow her on Instagram. But my dad's got it's us. It's not just him, but he's in charge of the hay. We raise commercial hay, and that is our public, sale item. We sell that publicly and commercially. He grows a great crop of alfalfa. We store it inside. It's in the barn. Second, third, fourth cuttings, all of that. We sell a lot of hay, and we make really good hay. I give him a compliment on that about every time I drive by one of his hay fields. I say, man, you sure are great at growing hay. And he really is. And if you want it to rain, you just ask him to cut it. And it will rain. Everyone knows.
Man, I should have had him come to Springfield. We could have gotten him to cut anybody's hay for about the last 3 weeks. We'd have loved it.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, well, that's awesome. Well, I cannot thank you enough. I know you had to make a drive, and we were able to get you some work visits along the way and maybe get to see your sister as well. But I know it's a joy for me. You're like a sibling to me. You could just be a part of the Laurent clan if you want. But it's been fun. I think it's neat to grow up and see how people are in their industries and the Western connection, Matt, and the tech. I mean, this one's all up down your alley.
This is very techy. You kind of knocked Western a little bit. But other than that, we have that connection.
We reminisced on some professors there, didn't we? Sometimes at Western,
did earlier before the show. Yeah, thanks. But yeah, we really appreciate you being here. Yeah. I've learned a lot. It's really one thing as a video guy, man, the number one videos on YouTube is ag tech when you talk about agriculture. So today was really neat to hear some new cool things coming up. So we appreciate you being here.
I'm going to give you one more YouTube plug real quick. So Big Tractor Power. You ever watch that? You got to go check it out, Matt.
Big Tractor Power.
So Big Tractor Power is a guy named Jason. He's from Christian County. And he is the most, I think he is. This may be an incorrect fact, but he's the most followed, most followers on YouTube of an ag channel.
Okay.
I think he's got more than Farmer Laura.
Look out.
Okay.
I don't know if that's true or not. I like his channel a lot. It's all equipment based, so it's just really cool. You get to see stuff from all over the country.
Yeah, we'll talk to that guy.
It's really neat.
Sounds cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, fantastic. Well, thank you, Caleb. And thank you, listeners. Be sure to subscribe to our larger podcast, Kentucky Farm Life. And we'll see you next time on Between the Rows.